छवि खराब करने का आरोप। देखिए पहली खबर, फिल्मकारों का जवाबी मार्च, शाम 7 बजे।
Good evening. You're watching the news at 6 on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are this evening's headlines. Prime Minister announces a 80,000 crore rupees package for Jammu and Kashmir during his first visit to the state since the BJP-PDP alliance came to power. After the Intolerance March comes the Tolerance March. Actor Anupam Kher leads a march to Rashtrapati Bhavan criticizing those returning their awards. All set for the counting of votes in Bihar, both NDA and the Grand Alliance confident of scoring a majority. Myanmar to vote in its first election in nearly 50 years. Around 30 million people expected to participate in the election process. And India wins the first test against South Africa in Mohali, beat the visitors by 108 runs. Well, the Prime Minister made his first visit to Jammu and Kashmir since the BJP-PDP coalition took power in the state. Promising unprecedented development, Modi promised the people that the centre and the state government would work hand in hand for the betterment of the state. Here's more.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi today announced a package of 80,000 crore rupees for the all-round development of Jammu and Kashmir. Saying this is just the beginning, the PM also promised to make Kashmir a dream destination for tourists.
मैंने पहले दिन आकर के 1000 करोड़ घोषित किया था। बाद में भी जैसी जरूरत पड़ी देते रहे और आज भी उस काम को पूरा करने में जम्मू कश्मीर सरकार के साथ दिल्ली कंधे से कंधा मिला करके चलेगा, ये मैं मेरे जम्मू कश्मीर के भाइयों बहनों को विश्वास दिलाता। प्रकृति ने जो जन्नत बनाई है, उस जन्नत को जीते जी जीने का एहसास करे, ये मेरा सपना लेकर के मैं चल रहा हूं।
This is the Prime Minister's first visit to the state since the BJP-PDP coalition came to power in March this year. He also recalled former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee's words and praised the Kashmiri people's social consciousness, democracy and humanity.
अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी ने जो बात कही थी, इससे बड़ा कोई संदेश नहीं हो सकता। उन्होंने 3 मंत्र दिए थे। उन्होंने कहा था कश्मीरियत, जमहूरियत और इंसानियत, कि कश्मीर के विकास का रास्ता इन 3 पिलर पर खड़ा होना है, इसी को मजबूती देनी है।
Flanked by Chief Minister Mufti Mohammad Saeed, Union Minister Nitin Gadkari and Jitendra Singh, and PDP President Mehbooba Mufti, the Prime Minister promised the people of the state that the centre stood rock solid behind the state government in restoring normalcy in the state. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Moving on now, noted members of the Hindi film fraternity took out a march for tolerance in New Delhi on Saturday. Led by veteran actor Anupam Kher, they were protesting the recent incidents of award wapsi. Now, they also accused those returning the awards of creating a false image of the country. Here's more.
Noted members of the film fraternity hit the streets of the national capital in protest on Saturday. They were raising their voice against the intellectuals and artists who have recently returned their awards to protest rising intolerance in the country.
This march is important because there are some people who are themselves intolerant and to prove to and they are sending wrong messages outside our country that we are becoming an intolerant country. We are not. We have the biggest freedom of expression.
The march to Rashtrapati Bhavan was led by veteran actor Anupam Kher, flanked by filmmakers Madhur Bhandarkar, Ashok Pandit and singer Abhijit Bhattacharya. They called it the March for India.
जो सडनली अवार्ड वापसी का जो सिलसिला चला है, ये सडनली चला है, ये एकदम झटके से चला है। अभी 10-15 दिन में हमने देखा है, तो मेरे ख्याल से ये गलत है और मेरे ख्याल से ये पहले भी इस तरह की चीजें तो पहले क्यों नहीं अवार्ड लौटाए गए? तो मैं ये पूछना चाहता हूं, तो कहीं संदेह लगता है, कहीं जाके ऐसा लगता है कि ये सिलेक्टिव एक्टिविज्म है टारगेट करने के लिए।
Meanwhile, Union Culture Minister Mahesh Sharma has said that award Vapsi was not a serious issue, saying that the writers should instead be vocal about their problems.
तीनों घटनाएं जिनके विषय में असहिष्णुता नाम का शब्द लिया जा रहा है, प्रदेश सरकार का, आप सब जानते हैं, कानून व्यवस्था प्रदेश सरकार का जिम्मा होता है। अगर कहीं प्रदेश सरकार से उसमें कहीं चूक रही है तो उनके खिलाफ वो आवाज उठाएं, अपनी बात कहें। हम भी उनके साथ हैं। हम भी चाहते हैं कि किसी कलाकार या किसी भी देशवासी की हत्या किसी भी तरह से निंदनीय है, कड़े से कड़े शब्दों में निंदनीय, उसकी जांच होनी चाहिए।
Like every debate, there are clearly two sides to the one on intolerance too. And it has begun in the backdrop of rationalists being murdered, a common man being lynched, and Dalit children being burnt alive. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, all eyes will be on Bihar on Sunday as the state eagerly awaits the outcome of the assembly polls that ended this week. Preparations are complete for the counting of votes that will begin from 8 in the morning. While most of the exit polls predict a tight finish, both NDA and the Grand Alliance leaders appeared confident to score a majority in the final result. Here's more.
The stakes are high, but it is still a close call over who will come out on top. The electoral battle between the NDA and the Grand Alliance in Bihar will culminate on Sunday when counting of votes is held. Amid tight security, counting will begin at 8 a.m. and the results are likely to be clear by mid-afternoon. Close to 15,000 poll officials will be deployed for the counting process.
Counting is scheduled to take place in 39 counting centers spread across 38 districts. And there are 243 counting halls and all preparations are done. Counting would start by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, and we expect that by 10:30, 11 we should have the trends out, and maybe the first final results would be out by maybe around 2 o'clock onwards.
Exit polls predict a close fight between the BJP-led NDA and the JDU-RJD Congress combined. Most of the polls gave the Grand Alliance an edge over the NDA. The India Today Cicero poll has predicted an average of 120 seats for the NDA and a close 117 for the Grand Alliance. India TV and Sea Voter have forecast 122 to 132 seats for the JDU-led alliance and 101 to 121 for the NDA. The Nielsen ABP News survey also gives an edge to the Grand Alliance. Only the Chanakya News 24 survey gives the NDA a majority in the assembly with 155 seats. However, both the NDA and the Grand Alliance remain confident about winning a clear majority. While Nitish Kumar will be looking for a hat-trick, BJP hopes to topple the JDU-RJD apple cart.
बिल्कुल गुमराह है। भाजपा आरएसएस ने इतना कंफ्यूज कर दिया है कि ज्यादा बेचैनी उन लोगों के अंदर है, लेकिन यथार्थ और सच्चाई ये है कि महागठबंधन 190 सीट पर हम लोग जीत रहे हैं।
मोदी सरकार का ही रेफरेंडम होगा, इसीलिए कि ये तो पीएम बनाम सीएम की लड़ाई ही थी। तो या तो हमारे सीएम जीतेंगे, नहीं तो उनके पीएम जीतेंगे।
लोगों ने बीजेपी गठबंधन का साथ दिया है और जितने भी ओपिनियन पोल आ रहे हैं उसमें भारतीय जनता पार्टी की स्थिति अच्छी है। जीतेगी भाजपा, जीतेगा बिहार, जीतेगा भारत।
एनडीए का सब में अपर हैंड है, तो जिस समय वो दिखला रहा था हम उसी समय समझ गए कि ये बहुत वैज्ञानिक रूप में और बहुत तार्किक रूप में ये दिखला रहा है, ये सच्चाई से बहुत नज़दीक होना चाहिए।
An NDA victory could help the BJP shake off the ongoing criticism over the issue of intolerance. With the winter session of Parliament just days away, it could also boost the ruling party to push its reforms agenda. However, an NDA loss will help Nitish Kumar acquire a key role in national politics after suffering a big setback in the Lok Sabha polls last year. With inputs from Vishal Dahiya, Bureau Report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Our correspondent Vishal Dahiya joins us for more from Patna right now. Vishal, we're back to square one as far as Bihar is concerned. A couple of months ago, just before campaigning began, several pollsters and analysts said that it was going to be a tight two-horse contest in Bihar. And 2 months later, now the exit polls also predicting the same, that it's going to be a very, very close contest. But what is it that the political parties are saying, and what does the mood in the political parties' camps look like as of now?
Well, Frank, just a few hours to go before the counting begins, and the political parties are still taking their respective stance, which they had been since last 2 months, which we have seen. Both sides, both the alliances are claiming victory. We saw Lalu Prasad Yadav once again repeating that figure of 190 for Grand Alliance today as well, and there were leaders from the BJP, leaders from NDA who were claiming victory for their alliance. So obviously claims and counterclaims are continued today as well. But then, this is something which is the picture is going to be clear tomorrow by around noon. Everything will be clear. The counting will begin at 8 a.m. It begins with the postal ballots, but then the first trends will start coming in by 9. And given the fact that it's now the new technology, the EVM machines, and there is a new software as well, that's the e-counting software, which is going to be used by the Election Commission officials during the counting process to get that real-time data from different counting centers. So we're hoping that by 12 the picture will be clear, and once that picture emerges, then we will have celebrations on beach and Patel Marg out here. That is the road wherein all party offices are situated. Now, it is not yet clear on which side of the road we will hear the bursting of firecrackers and distribution of sweets, but it is surely going to happen tomorrow on that road itself.
The fate of several heavyweight candidates has been sealed in this particular election, and the future will of course be decided tomorrow as to which way or where the futures of these political heavyweights really lies. But talking about some of these heavyweights, have they actually come out and said anything? What is the mood like in some of their houses, or for that matter, the party offices as such?
Well, Frank, as I said earlier, the heavyweights are continuing with their respective claims of victory for their respective alliances. But as far as the mood is concerned, the scenario is concerned, at the houses of these top leaders, there was a continuous buzz. People, specifically the other leaders of the party, of the alliance, were meeting the senior leaders throughout the day today. But at the party offices, there was not much of an activity. Specifically the report which I sent earlier in the day, we could see not much activity in all three major offices of all three major parties, that is BJP, JDU and RJD. All three party offices are situated close to each other on Beach and Patel Marg. There were just a handful of party workers. There were no specific arrangements for the counting day, as we have seen so far in many elections. No pandals, no separate arrangement for food or something like that. Apparently, some last-minute arrangements might have been done by the political parties, but throughout the day, not much was done.
All right, we'll have to leave it at that. Vishal, thank you so much for joining us there with all those details. Moving on now, let's bring you a roundup of all the other national news in our segment Nationwide. Underworld Don Chota Rajan was remanded in CBI custody for 10 days today in the fake passport case. The CBI produced Rajan in front of a magistrate who held the proceedings inside the CBI headquarters on Saturday. Rajan was deported on Friday to face trial in over 70 cases. The Army successfully test-fired the BrahMos supersonic land attack cruise missile in Pokhran on Saturday. The missile has a range of 300 kilometers and is capable of being launched from land, sea and air against sea and land targets. The missile, which can reach a speed of up to Mach 2.8, is a joint venture between India and Russia. Well, the CPM-led Left Democratic Front has emerged victorious in the Kerala civic polls. The alliance won 4 city corporations and 45 municipalities. The ruling Congress-led UDF suffered a setback by winning only 2 corporations and 40 municipalities. BJP made a significant mark by winning 1 municipality and 14 Gram Panchayats. Well, it's time for a short break now, but still to come. China and Taiwan break the ice with the first ever top-level meeting in over 60 years. That and much more on the other side. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Today we will discuss why the Supreme Court struck down the National Judicial Appointment Commission.
This judgment itself is unconstitutional.
The Supreme Court should have, while adjudicating upon its validity, bestowed more respect and deference to it and looked at it from that angle.
If you take away the powers of appointment of the judges completely away from the court, you are letting in the executive government
to compromise the autonomy
on the
judiciary.
question of it.
Watch Law of the Land on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, Myanmar will go to polls on Sunday for the first time since the military rulers took over the reins nearly 50 years ago. Final preparations were underway for the polls in which around 30 million people are expected to take part. Thousands of Myanmar citizens are hoping that the election results will turn the tide for the country. Here's a detailed report.
Myanmar gears up for the historic polls on Sunday as the country's election commission finalized the preparations. The chief of the election commission overlooked the preparations and met observers who were watching the process. Meanwhile, political parties prepared their offices so supporters could come and watch the results roll in.
Maybe 60 or 70% လောက်လာလိမ့်မယ်လို့ထင်ပါတယ်။လူတိုင်းကအကုန်လုံးစိတ်ဝင်စားကြပါလေ။ဟုတ်။ဆန္ဒမဲပေးဖို့ရွေးကောက်ပွဲကိုစိတ်ဝင်စားတယ်။ဒါမှမဟုတ်သူလာပါလိမ့်မယ်။
Reports over incomplete voter lists and allegations by the opposition National League for Democracy of violations by candidates and parties have dogged the campaign period, which ended officially on Friday. There are over 6,000 candidates being fielded by 91 national and ethnic parties. In a televised address on Friday, Myanmar President Thein Sein said that the government and the military would accept the results and that the election would be as free and fair as possible. The military, though, will still continue to have some control even if they lose the elections, as the constitution states that 25% of seats should be held by the military junta appointees. This essentially will ensure that no matter which way the voters sway, the current ruling party led by Thein Sein will continue to cling on to power. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, joining me this evening to talk about this is senior journalist Deepak Diwan. A very good evening and thank you for joining me on the program. You know, as far as Myanmar is concerned, there's a very crucial election or as a result for a very crucial election in Bihar, but then it's going to be even more crucial for the politicians in Myanmar tomorrow. What is it that we can expect from these polls?
Well, in fact, the entire world is going to watch tomorrow's election in Myanmar. In fact, the United Nations has already deputed its observers there to see to it that elections are free and fair. And see, as you know, this election tomorrow will bring the actual democracy. Right now, what we have in Myanmar is the militarized democracy. You know, if you recall in 1990, when Aung San Suu Kyi's party, NLD, had swept the poll results and they came with the absolute majority, but the military junta refused to hand over the power to them. And in fact, after that, she was under house arrest. There were a lot of uprising for pro-democracy call in this nation. And also, there were sanctions from all over the world against Myanmar. And seeing that gradually the military junta also changed from Ne Win to Thein Sein, and this entire process of bringing democracy again in Myanmar started very recently. And if you recall in 2012, when there were by-elections which took place in Myanmar, in that too also Aung San Suu Kyi's party NLD got 43 seats out of 45, and she herself won, and she right now sits in the parliament. And another thing, in this time the election, you have to also keep this in mind. The feeling of democracy you can see from the number of women candidates participating. There are 800 women candidates, and unfortunately at the same time you have the problem of Rohingyas going on there. There are about 8 lakh Rohingyas who the Myanmaris, they concerned that they are from Bangladesh and they do not have the voting rights. But other Muslims will be allowed to go for polling, and they will cast the votes.
Several people and several reports say that this could probably be the most credible election in 50 years. Do you see that happening, or do you see the military, interfering at some level?
Well, see, the military is, number one, this is going to be a pure, free and, the democratic election, first time after 1946. See, and the fear of military, they have already secured, as you showed it in your news. See, the constitution says 25% seats of the parliament will be kept reserved for the persons to be nominated by the army. So whether they lose or they win, even if they lose, they will still be, army will still be present in the parliament. And number two, the main contest is between the army-led United Solidarity and Development Party, USDP, and NLD, which is led by Aung San Suu Kyi. And there are other 91 national parties and ethnic groups which are contesting the election. But everybody expects Myanmar to be a democratic country. I mean, we Indians as well as the natives of Myanmar. During my visits there, I've been there thrice, in 2012, 2014, and last year again I went there.
Right.
While talking to local journalists, they also now they speak freely, which was not there earlier.
Indeed. All right, Deepak Diwan, we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us on the program and putting things into perspective for us. Moving on to some more international news now. The leaders of China and Taiwan held historic talks in Singapore. Xi Jinping and Ma Ying-jeou shook hands, marking the first top-level contact between the former Cold War foes since they split amid civil war 66 years ago. However, the meeting was merely symbolic, with no agreements or deals reached. Here's more.
A historic moment. First face-to-face communication since 1949. Taiwan's President Ma Ying-jeou and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping shaking hands as a mark of friendship and peace. Ma described the talks as positive and friendly, calling for continuation of such ties in the future.
会场的气氛很融洽，而且这个非常正面。我发现这个习先生他讨论问题的时候相当的务实、弹性和坦率。我也希望这样的一个精神将来能够反映到两岸关系的处理上去。
Resonating Taiwan's views, Xi said the two sides are one family and no force can pull them apart.
两岸关系66年的发展历程表明，不管两岸同胞经历多少风雨，有过多长时间的隔绝，没有任何力量能把我们分开。
The meeting has been widely hailed as a milestone in bilateral relations. Taiwan proposed reducing hostility by expanding high-level exchanges and establishing a cross-strait hotline. But the two shied away from the issue of South China Sea disputes, saying the focus must be on building the negotiation framework for now.
此刻，我跟习先生相对而坐，共聚一堂。在我们背后的是两岸分隔超过一甲子的历史。 在我们眼前的是这几年来双方致力以对话取代对立，以和解替代冲突的成果。
The two leaders are determined to promote peace across the Taiwan Strait, despite protests casting doubts on Beijing's intentions. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Here are some more international news stories in our segment Global Buzz. Black box data from the plane that crashed in Egypt last week indicates it was bombed. Both the flight data and voice recorder failed 24 minutes after takeoff. Cairo and Moscow had initially dismissed the claim that the plane was downed. Now, mounting evidence that the Airbus was attacked has prompted a growing list of governments to warn against travel to Sharm el-Sheikh. With an anti-immigrant campaign and razor-wire border fence, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has emerged as a winner at home in the crisis that has divided Europe. Orban has closed down a major transit route through Hungary for hundreds of thousands of asylum seekers fleeing war and poverty. On a visit to a small Slovenian town, he said that he saw no end to Europe's migrant influx. US President Barack Obama on Friday rejected the Keystone XL pipeline from Canada. This decision comes as a victory for environmentalists who have campaigned against the project for more than 7 years. Obama said that the pipeline would make no meaningful long-term contribution to the economy. Leading Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump has vowed to bring back jobs from India and China. He alleged that the two countries are taking away jobs from Americans. However, Trump did not give any policy perspective on how he would fulfill this promise, but he hopes that such a move would help him win the support of the Hispanic community. Moving on to some sports news now. India defeated South Africa by 108 runs in the first test at Mohali today. South Africa's top order crumbled for the second time in the test to Indian spinners. Ashwin, Mishra and Jadeja took 9 wickets to draw first blood in the 4-test series.
So Jadeja.
India has bounced back in the test series after losing the T20 and ODI series to South Africa. Indian spinners helped India win the first test at Mohali inside 3 days. Chasing a modest 218-run target on a turning track, the Proteas were bundled for 109 runs in the final session. This was Kohli's first test win at home as captain.
The match wasn't as comfortable as the margin suggests. I wouldn't say it was, very, very close. I would say that if they had wickets in hand, it could have been interesting in the fourth innings. Apart from that, I don't really want to get into what the mistakes they made. I'm sure they want to reflect on that, and so do we as a batting unit. We haven't performed to our potential in this game. We know that the bowlers have stepped up. Even if the ball is turning how much ever, the bowlers need to pitch the ball in the right area, so they should get credit for that.
Making a comeback to the side, Ravindra Jadeja emerged as the man of the match after his performance with the ball. He picked 5 wickets in the second innings to end with a match haul of 8 wickets. He trapped Imran Tahir leg before wicket to pick the last of the South African wickets as the team broke into celebration after beating the #1 test side. Earlier, India consolidated lead with the help of Cheteshwar Pujara and Virat Kohli. Pujara top scored with 77 runs, but after Kohli's dismissal, India lost last 6 wickets for 24 runs and ended 1 short of their first innings score. For Protea, spinners Simon Harmer and Imran Tahir bagged 4 wickets each. With a 1-0 lead now in the 4-match series, India will now take on the visitors in the second test in Bengaluru from 14th of November. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
That's it on this edition of the news at 6. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good evening.
A keenly watched election. An intensely fought contest. Bihar has cast its vote. Now it's time for the verdict. Minute by minute results. Incisive analysis. On-the-spot reports.
Those who represent them
can turn to lure the voters.
55% of voting turnout
Rajya Sabha TV brings it to you live.
It's also very famous and prestigious. One stop for the day.
Good evening, you're watching Verdict 2015.
Watch non-stop coverage of the election tally on counting day, Sunday, November 8th, only on Rajya Sabha television.
पुरस्कार वापसी के विरोध में कलाकारों का मार्च। भारत को बताया सहिष्णु देश। विरोधियों पर लगाया छवि खराब करने का आरोप। देखिए पहली खबर, फिल्मकारों का जवाबी मार्च, शाम 7 बजे।